Hello ocean people, I'm Brent Durand. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to compare the DJI Osmo Action 5 Pro with the GoPro Hero13 Black for underwater video. We know that DJI has a reputation for creating excellent cameras, and that at this point we know the Action 5 lives up to that reputation. We also know that GoPro was the original action camera and set quality and performance benchmarks for years. So the question is, which camera is better for underwater video? My approach to this review is to film a variety of underwater scenes in our local kelp forest and to show you the footage so that you can make your own opinion. Because, well, we know what the specs are, we've seen all those influencer videos. You found this video, so you deserve a little bit more about how these cameras really work underwater. Before we start, know that DJI did send me this Action 5 and I do get to keep it. But as you'll see when we talk about settings and showing you the underwater video, I'm letting the cameras speak for themselves in a heads-up test to remove any sort of bias that way. So does that sound good for you? Because it sounds good for me. So let's get going. Let's take a quick look at the bodies of both of these cameras. On your right is the Osmo Action 5 Pro, and on your left is the Hero13 Black. You'll see that they are very similar in size. The screens are pretty similar once you look at the screen themselves. You have the top shutter button, and then you also have the quick switch / power button on the side. Now, the Osmo Action 5 Pro is waterproof to 20 meters without the dive case, and the Hero13 Black is waterproof to 10 meters without the dive case. You can totally dive them like this, particularly in fresh water, and you get benefits such as using the magnetic mount, either on the camera body itself or on the Osmo Action 5 Pro. You can put it on the case with the ability to use the magnetic mount in horizontal or vertical format, which is pretty cool. Actually, this side, vertical format. But I always recommend diving action cameras underwater with the dive housing. Not only does the housing allow you to dive beyond the camera's depth rating, but it offers an extra layer of protection from flooding due to an eyelash or a piece of lint you don't see compromising the seal. The housing is also much cheaper to replace if the lens gets scratched while clipping it off to your BCD or putting the camera in the rinse tank. And over time, sand, gunk, particulate can jam up the mechanisms or even the microphone holes. So if you plan on doing a lot of intensive scuba diving with your action camera, pick up the dive housing. I've got links in the description below. One big upgrade that DJI made with the Action 5 is the increased battery life that lasts up to 4 hours, which means it will last a full dive day if you're shooting selectively. Let's talk about image quality next. The Action 5 Pro has an updated 1/1.3 inch sensor compared to the GoPro's smaller 1/1.9 inch sensor. The larger sensor should deliver more dynamic range. Both cameras shoot 8 or 10 bit, they shoot HDR, they have HLG high dynamic range, and they have log flat color profiles if that's your thing, but we're gonna focus primarily on the more automatic settings. So let's get these cameras in their dive housings and get in the water. On the left is the Action 5 Pro, and on the right is a GoPro Hero13 Black. So the Action 5 Pro has 13.5 stops of dynamic range, which is the data from the white point to the black point, and I'm seeing nice quality in the highlights and the shadows on the left. Here we are more backlit for another view where my face is shaded. And note on the settings that the Osmo Action cameras film in HDR automatically, which is why I've activated HDR video on the Hero13. And also know I've done no editing at all on this footage besides simply trimming and cropping the clips. You can see that dive conditions weren't great here. We had about 10 to 20 feet visibility and varying density of this milky haziness. But this creates very dark dive conditions, pushing the low light performance of these cameras. Right now we're keeping dynamic range in mind, but we're also looking at color rendering and the need to look at the color tone of the footage because that's a huge consideration in picking your action camera, and it changes depending on the conditions. Right now we have a choice between a lot of automatic color correction, like we see particularly here with the Action 5 in correcting this footage, and then we also have filters and video lights these days. So in these scenes we're generally seeing a warmer tone coming from the GoPro Hero13 Black. Here we have more whites to focus on, and sometimes we'll see that the color tone will change depending on the scene, how many reds and whites are in there, or even see that the color correction changes as we move the camera around in direction to the sun. Here the footage is a bit brighter with the GoPro on the right, but I do see more detail and maybe more sharpening in the left in that footage coming from the Osmo Action 5. That said, the level of sharpening can be controlled in both of these action cameras in the settings, something you might want to look at if you are setting up custom presets within the quick switch menu for using the camera in the dive housing underwater, which I highly recommend. So if you don't know about presets, then check out some of my other action camera videos where I teach you how to set those up. And of course, sharpening can be controlled in post-processing because different levels work better for different platforms and viewing devices. In this scene, we can see on the right that the GoPro is really struggling in this low light environment. The Action 5 on the left is really bringing out a lot more of those blues, looking for the reds and correcting that white balance, but the chunky high noise grain on that right was pretty distracting. And here on the right with the GoPro, the highlights seem a bit washed out. I feel like we just see a bit more detail in the left in the Osmo Action 5 Pro. And here's another shot, and this sticks out to me, not just the color and looking at the dynamic range, but the jitters. So there have been a good amount of digital image stabilization jitters coming from the GoPro. If you go back and rewatch some of that footage, you'll see that it's pretty apparent. Just some background here is that a lot of cameras using digital image stabilization struggle when there's movement. So if you're shooting over a hard coral reef, you won't notice anything. But if you get anywhere where there's moving algae or moving kelp or anything like that, you'll see one, a lot of jitters as the image stabilization repositions itself, and two, you will see a lot of warble around the edges as the image stabilization tries to move the frame around because it crops in from the full sensor data to create that stabilized image. So you see a lot of wonky stuff happening in some of this footage, and it looks like the Osmo Action 5 is actually doing a really great job with that. This scene is fun. It just shows you the visibility during these dives this day. Had a couple free divers come say hello, and of course a friendly harbor seal right here. You gotta have the cute factor. And now let's take a look at a clip filmed with dual 4300 video lights, since many scuba divers want to use artificial lighting with their action camera. Here we've got a difference in color in these real dark conditions at the end of the day. You see that dark green in the background, and then you see the scene lit and the underwater color correction taking place here based on these scenes that do have a little bit of red and some white in them. So what do you think? Leave your opinions and feedback in the comments section below. I reply to all comments, and other people watching this video also reply and contribute their experience with these cameras. In terms of other stuff I can tell you about the Action 5, the dual OLED screens were really bright underwater. The rear screen doesn't have a lot of extra information on it that you don't need in the dive housing, which is great. You can compose your scene. And the front was really convenient and bright for shooting those selfie scenes. I even shot some log footage that I did not show here because I wanted to stay away from editing that footage, but that was easy to see on the back of the camera, even though it was a very flat, dull color profile like log is. There's also a built-in pressure gauge with the camera that is certified, which means it works well and you can trust it. So if you're using the camera outside of the dive case, then you can see your pressure and your depth, which can be convenient to add to your footage or incorporate into your dive log so you know what you shot where. Another very cool feature, just remember you can't dive below the camera's max operating depth. Beyond that, there are a few different combos and ways you can get all the accessories for the Osmo Action 5 Pro. The first is a standard combo, which comes with the camera and the extreme battery. The second is a diving combo, which then includes the dive case and also the floating handle. And the floating handle has a lanyard on it and it floats, so it's great for snorkeling and free diving, maybe scuba diving if you want the handle instead of the dual tray system you saw me using earlier. One note as well is all of these kits with the camera do come with the frame and also, getting too many things in my hand here, but various mounts, including the magnetic mount that works on the camera itself and even in vertical position on that frame for the camera. And finally, I'll set this all down here, but you have the Pro Adventure combo, and that includes a selfie stick here. So that can also be useful underwater for selfie scenes. Don't poke it at the marine life or anything, but fun there. Make sure you rinse any hardware if it goes in the salt water. And it does actually include a little tab for a lanyard for your wrist so you don't lose it, or you can clip it off to your BCD. That's convenient. That combo also includes something that I really love, just This is a multifunctional battery case too. Basically, it holds 2 extra batteries, right? So your camera comes with 1 battery. This Pro Adventure combo comes with 2 additional ones, and this case that charges all 3 batteries, but then also will charge the batteries from the case itself, right? You can charge this in the wall, or the case will charge the batteries. So this is super cool if you plan to be out and shooting all day. And it's fun to play with. It's got these LEDs that tell you charge status. So 3 different cool combos and ways to get accessories for your camera. In terms of pricing, the standard combo for the Action 5 Pro with the extreme battery is $349. For the GoPro Hero13 Black, it's $399, but you also get the micro SD card. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something. If you have questions or comments, again, leave them below. Subscribe if you haven't done that yet, and I'll see you in the next video.